I'd like to call it Isabella County Board of Commissioners work session to order. Stand for the pledge, please.
Jesus.
Flag the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Madam Clerk, a roll call, please.
Commissioner Hutchinson,
Present.
Commissioner Engler,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Marino,
Commissioner Swaney,
Here.
Commissioner Horton,
Here.
Here.
all present.
Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Up next would be approval of the agenda. We'll start out with general public comments. Under presentations and special reports, we got the Isabella County Administrator Controller who most likely will not be here. We've got numerous appointments to boards and commissions. So it's that time of the year. And then committee reports, Finance and Administration Committee.
The Finance and Administration Committee is all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Criminal Justice and County Affairs Committee.
The Criminal Justice and County Affairs Committee is all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Human Resources and Public Works has no business to bring forward tonight. And then under Intergovernmental Affairs, Commissioner Marino, we don't have any governmental
No, we don't.
affairs tonight, do we? Thank you. We have no administrator controller issues, no unfinished business. Under new business, a couple of items. One would be the 2022 Isabella County Administrator Controller Performance Appraisal. And the second one would be setting the January 3rd organizational meeting. And then we'll have another opportunity for general public comments, announcements, and then at the end, we'll go into a closed session to consider collective bargaining agreement strategy. So with that, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Don't move, Marino.
Support.
Moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We have an agenda, and that brings us to general public comments. Is there anyone for general public comment? Michelle, is there anyone online? No one online. Okay, and we can keep right on moving. Down to appointments to boards and commissions, and I'll read through these and probably mention a couple things about each applicant. And then I'll pause if somebody wants to chime in and talk about any of these folks. Jump right in, otherwise I'll just keep moving. And so the first one would be consider appointing 3 members to Isabella County Board of Public Works for 3-year terms ending December 31st, 2025, or until a successor is appointed. And the only applicant is Bob Campbell. He's the incumbent, has been a business owner and resident locally for many years. So the next one would be consider appointing 1 member to the Isabella County Commission on Aging Advisory Board as a District 2 representative for a 3-year term ending December 31st, 2025, or until a successor is appointed. And that applicant is Ruth Ann Mantino. Also an incumbent. Ruth Ann's a retired RN, had 27 years in the healthcare industry, primarily caring for the elderly, and has been on the advisory board for many years. Item C, consider appointing 1 member to the Isabella County Commission on Aging Advisory Board as a District 5 representative for a 3-year term ending December 31st, 2025, or until a successor is appointed. That applicant is Alicia Haley, professor, also an incumbent, been on the board for 6 years, and she loves it, according to her application. She says, I have a vested interest in supporting our aging and disabled community members because there is a real need. So is consider appointing one member to the Isabella County Commission on Aging Advisory Board as a District 6 representative for a 3-year term ending December 31st, 2025, or until a successor is appointed, and that applicant is Larry Fussman. Also an incumbent. Retired Larry is a member of the Lions Club, Habitat for Humanity, United Way, Junior Chamber of Commerce. Anyone that spends their retirement serving the community like that is a good person. So brings us down to letter E. Consider appointing one member to the Isabella County Construction Board of Appeals as the architectural engineering trade representative for a 2-year term ending December 31st, 2024, until a successor is appointed. That applicant is Gerald Stewart. He's had a long career in construction and architectural profession. He is a registered architect in Wisconsin for 20 years, Ferris State University graduate. Moving along, item F. Consider appointing 2 members to the Isabella County Construction Board of Appeals as building trades representatives for 2-year terms ending December 31st, 2024, or until a successor is appointed. And we have one applicant there. His name is Robert Tillman. Robert's a retired building official, many years in the construction trade. So moving along, item G. Consider appointing one member to the Isabella County Construction Board of Appeals as a plumbing trade representative for a 2-year term ending December 31st, 2024, or until a successor is appointed. Robert Myers, also an incumbent, 30 years plumbing experience, has served on Construction Board of Appeals for 30 years. So very experienced applicant there. Item H, consider appointing one member to the Isabella County Construction Board of Appeals as a mechanical trade representative to complete a 2-year term ending December 31st, 2023, or until a successor is appointed. That applicant is Dwight Falk, and he has served on the construction board since 1993. Lifetime experience in heating and cooling business. Item I, consider appointing 2 members to the Isabella County Construction Board of Appeals as electrical trade representatives for 2-year terms ending December 31st, 2024, or until a successor is appointed. And we have one applicant. His name is Adam Brookins. Adam currently serves on the Planning Commission. He's a master electrician and a licensed electrical contractor.
I can say from the Planning Commission, he attends meeting, is active at the Planning Commission and acts invested in it. So I encourage.
Very good. Thank you. J is consider appointing one member to the Isabella County 911 Advisory Board for a 2-year term ending December 31st, 2024, or until a successor is appointed. We have 2 applicants for one position there. The first one would be Sharon Brown. Sharon's a retired medical first responder and was a Fremont Township treasurer. The other would be Stephanie Dunn, who was on the MRF Advisory Board and reapplying.
Mr. Chairman, yes, I happen to know both of these candidates. Stephanie serves on the board on the material recovery, and Sharon Brown, I know she's was on the crisis, what they call that, the crisis incident stress debriefing team. So I know she was contacted me and she was really interested in this. In fact, I talked her to serving on another board, but she really wanted this board, so.
Plus, I believe Sharon Brown was our previous register of deeds
Yeah.
also. So she's got quite a history and former elected official and well-known in the community, so.
Very good. That would bring us down to item K. Consider appointing one member to the Isabella County Human Rights Committee as an at-large representative to complete a 3-year term ending September 1st, 2024, or until a successor is appointed. We have 3 applicants for that. The first would be Amanda Brake, who works with Transitions Committee as project manager for a tiny houses in Mount Pleasant initiative that has been building and growing over the last year or so. She was also president of the Mid-Michigan Community College Human Rights Group from 2007 to 2008. And the second one would be Nicole S. Hagel. Nicole has a bachelor's and a master's in education, former Marine, English teacher, teaches cognitive impairments and learning disabilities. She is on her building and district diversity, equity, and inclusion committees. And then the third one would be Phil Micus, retired recycling manager. He was on the board of Friends of Broadway Theater and a volunteer for the Commission on Aging. So.
I can tell you from being on that board, Philip Micus has been involved with the group all year long and has been attending meetings and events. He's very interested. And Amanda Brake came to the last 2 meetings to introduce herself.
And my relationship with Mr. Micus was his son and my son were played soccer a long time ago, but he also, how I got to know Phil was he was also a Union Township trustee for a long time. And then I believe he moved out of the district, then he moved back into the into Isabella County, so.
All right, moving right along. Item number L is consider appointing one member to the Isabella County Human Rights Committee as an at-large representative to complete 3-year term ending September 1st, 2025, or until a successor is appointed. And we have the same 3 folks applied for both positions there. So item M, consider appointing 2 members to Isabella County Material Recovery Facility Advisory Board for 2-year terms ending December 31st, 2024, or until a successor is appointed. And we have 2 applicants for those 2 seats are Stephanie Dunn and Ann Jensen. Stephanie Dunn is the incumbent, and Jensen, also an incumbent, has been on the MRF board for 3 years and has been vice chair for most of that time. So Commissioner Engler.
Yes, I've served with both of these. They well contribute to it. As you know, the feasibility studies is going to be completed sometime in February. So this a lot of going to get a little busier. I know Jake has talked about expanding to getting a steering committee to look into whenever that happens. But yeah, this committee is getting more. It's going to be a little more busier than it has been. Look forward to it. They've been both been good members.
Good to know. Thank you. Interesting times coming up at the MRF. Item N, consider appointing 2 members to the Isabella County Parks and Recreation Commission for 3-year terms ending December 31st, 2025, or until a successor is appointed. And the one applicant is Jordan Brewer. I'm having a hard time with that name.
I slaughtered.
No? Jordan, I'll call him Jordan. I'm having a tough time with that last name, but he's applying for a second term. I'm an avid user and promoter of our park system. As a BA and an MA in Parks and Natural Resource Management.
And there is another opening on there, so we've been looking for people to volunteer to fill that other positions, because there will still be a position open, so.
Okay. And that was item N. So item O, consider appointing 3 members to the Isabella County Planning Commission for 3-year terms ending December 31st, 2025, or until a successor is appointed. And this would be Adam Brookins, Bob Campbell, Stephanie Dunn, Nicole S. Hagel, Philip Bogle, and Tim Wolf. And I think I've mentioned most of those folks. Adam Brookins, Bob Campbell, and Philip Bogle are the incumbents.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Swaney mentioned Mr. Brookins. I never had the opportunity to serve with Mr. Brookins, but I was on the planning commission for 8 years. And during that time, I served with both Bob Campbell and Philip Bogle, and I thought they added quite a bit to the planning commission. They had very good opinions. They weren't tied to any certain agenda or anything like that. So I think they were able to research. They were involved when we had books this high in front of us and we're getting yelled at by people, and they withstood and showed up to meetings. So I think that speaks volumes for them. I think one might have been disqualified during that time frame, but he would have showed up if he could have. So.
Okay, thank you. Item P would be consider appointing 2 members to the Zoning Board of Appeals for 3-year terms ending December 31st, 2025, or until a successor is appointed. We have 2 seats and 2 applicants, Brent Duffett, an incumbent, and Thomas Cromer, also an incumbent. I don't have anything on Brett. I think maybe his application didn't have much information. Thomas Cromer is a PhD in education and has served on numerous boards and commissions in the community. The only other thing, we have applicants for the Commission on Aging Advisory Board. We still need a person for the District 7 seat on that Commission on Aging Advisory Board. So if you live in District 7, which is the southwest portion of City of Mount Pleasant, or if you know somebody that would be interested, I've been trying for a couple of years to get somebody to fill that seat with no luck. So keep that in mind. And that is the end of appointments to boards and commissions. Brings us down to committee reports. Finance and Administration Committee.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First up on our list tonight is consider ratifying and placing on file the December 2nd, 2022 invoice list in the amount of $236,306.21. The December 9th, 2022 invoice list in the amount of $381,913.64, and the adjustment list dated December 15th, 2022. As commissioners, we receive these by email every week on the invoice list. We also had a chance to go through in committee and discuss these. Where really wasn't, Commissioner Jelezinski, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think either one of us saw anything out of the ordinary in these during our committee. And the adjustment list, which we just is usually the typical with the Gordon Foods, because they've got some sales, and the sales tax, people as a governmental entity, a lot of times invoices will charge a sales tax, but as a governmental entity, a lot of times, and most of the time, we're exempt from sales tax. So we get sales tax back. So we have to pay for it, but we have to show that as an invoice and as a credit or a debit or whatever they accountants do. I don't know. So any commissioners have any questions in regards to the 2 invoices and the adjustment list? Okay, hearing and seeing none, these will move forward to this evening.
Second item of business for the committee is consider approving fiscal year 2023 budget amendment number 2023-4. First quarter budget amendments for other funds, and authorize the board chair to sign the same. We went through the budget amendments proposed by administration. And what you can see, a common thread in the one for the funds is that we're addressing fax machines and telephones. Apparently that was overlooked in the regular budget process. So this is kind of catching up, establishing monies for those accounts. I don't think there was anything else that I saw in the funds. And these are the funds outside of the general fund budget, such as the Parks and Recreation Commission on Aging and so on. Are there any questions? All right, we'll put this on tonight's agenda then.
Okay, that brings us to item number 3. Consider approving fiscal year 2023 budget amendment number 2023-05. First quarter budget adjustments for general fund and authorize the board chair to sign the same. Kind of piggybacking on what Commissioner Jelazinski said, this one though affects the general fund. This is basically just the revenue and expenditures and the cross and how if you get revenue, you have to show some expenditures and or anything like that. So these are the budget adjustments again, very heavy on fax machine costs and cell phone and wireless. One of the things we did talk about in committee though, these aren't necessarily fax machines per se. They could be emails or email faxes and things like that, but they put them in as fax machines. So if someone says, well, you guys are way behind the times, well, not necessarily so, but sometimes a good old fashioned fax machine isn't a bad thing either. But you know, it's just again, though, we are just dotting the i's and crossing the t's when it comes to budget revenue and expenditures on our budget adjustments. So pretty much straightforward. Commissioners, any questions? Hearing and seeing none, that will move forward to this evening. And Mr. Chairman, with that completes the work of the Finance and Administration Committee.
Thank you, commissioners. And that brings us to Criminal Justice and County Affairs Committee.
All right, first up, consider approving the agreement between County of Isabella County Sheriff's Office and the Village of Lake Isabella for dedicated public safety services. Authorize board chair to sign the same. Of course, we have Sheriff Maine describe this, but basically the same agreement that we have with Lake Isabella every year.
Good afternoon. So Lake Isabella, Village of Lake Isabella had some ARPA dollars and they want to do some extra patrols. We've done that for about a year now. It has been successful. They have enjoyed that and appreciated that. In fact, they went out and got a small millage approved to continue that service. So that's really all this is. They're going to move those monies from the ARPA to this millage, and they just wanted to renew that. The contract is absolutely the same. The process is the same methodology and protocols are going to be the same. The only thing that really changes into it was the instead of ending every year and having to do this, it's just going to reoccur. It gives us a 30-day window out with no penalties. So that was really the only thing that changed. It does pay for the gas and the fuels and the extra services. Again, they've appreciated it. We supply them with data and some statistics and stuff. And we've had a few calls there. We've had a couple of emergency calls in that area since we've been there. But I think the traffic enforcement is a big thing. They have a lot of speed back in the backsides of the lake, and they appreciate having the extra patrols. So we stagger those patrols, different days, different hours, different shifts. So kind of mix it up a little bit there.
And are there any questions for Sheriff Mann? No, seeing none, we'll move this forward to the regular session.
Okay, next up is considering approving the Motorola Solutions, Inc. proposal for Isabella County, Michigan enhanced radio communication coverage and subscribers dated November 21st, 2022, and authorize the board chair to sign the notice to proceed letter. I think we've talked about this several times, Sheriff. You want
Where to start? This has been an interesting project. So it's been a little over a year now that I've been working on this to this degree. So as we know that the state allocated $4.8 million to Isabella County for a radio infrastructure and equipment to kind of upgrade us. So I'm going to run through just the history real quick. Michelle, I don't know if I lost you or not. I just, everything went blank. So we've been communicating multiple conversations between Motorola, our local vendor, the state of Michigan, DTMB, which is the finance part of the Michigan, our local public safety partners and so forth. This has been quite a project to try to narrow down where we need to land. So we've come up with the phased approach. I think I mentioned this a few times before. Phase one will be to put the infrastructure tower in place. And that includes all the hardware and so forth that goes with that. Once that's in place, we will then test that system to see where we fall short. Our goal is to cover Union Township, Central Michigan University, heavy box stores in Mount Pleasant, the hospitals, all the way out to the tribe and the tribal entities. That's our goal. We know we probably won't reach all the way down to Shepherd to the school. We may have to put some BDAs or bidirectional antennas in those as well to kind of upgrade that. But that is our goal, to have penetration into those buildings. We want to test all of that. We've seen the maps multiple times. We've had multiple meetings with them. These maps show that it should work, could work, might work, probably will work. So until we test it, we want to make sure it works, right? So we won't be spending any additional dollars past that first phase of infrastructure before we test that to see exactly what we need to do to fix any failure rates. If we have minimal or no failure rates, fantastic. We move on to phase two. Phase two would be to put some of the BDAs in the Shepherd schools and so forth. Phase three would follow that right up, and that includes replacement of mobiles and portable radios to the tune of roughly, I got some numbers here, I think shortly, but it's a lot of money. Excluding the state police, they have a separate pocket of money for the state because of the state grant, so they're not eligible for this. And then phase four, if there's funds left over, there are a couple of things that are kind of dangling out there that we could maybe increase the capabilities of a couple of our partners. And I'm not really ready to go into that tonight because I don't really want to put that out there and then not be able to come through with it if we don't have the funds. But there are a couple of things that I think we can help our partners at the end of on phase four. So the tower site location originally was going to be on CMU campus. It is now locked in at the central dispatch site. We're not going to pull down Mark's existing tower. We're going to leave a tower. We're going to put a new tower beside it. There was some final hour water tower discussions not too far from there, about 0.4 miles from that Mark site, would save us the $170,000 in monopole. However, when we started to research that a little bit, the one tower that Isabella County has is over in the west part of the county. It's at 104% capacity. So we've been told by the state and everybody else that that's no problem, but that's going to require about $250,000 to upgrade that tower to hold the new equipment. So I'm not good at math, but that didn't make sense. So we kind of ruled that one out. Plus the water tower, they have to put it up with a crane. If there has to paint the water tower or any maintenance to it has to come down, kind of puts us back to square one where we're at today. Another good function about Mark's location is the existing tower will be able to microwave hop it to Mark's shop. It'll then hop to the Midland County Southwest site and then back. So it creates a loop, which is a good thing. So if any one of those towers goes down, we've got this loop going, which is really a good thing. So I just think at the end of the day, I think we've got the right location at this point. It's 195 foot. We've checked with FCC, we checked with FAA, I've checked with Tim Nieport's office. We're all good. Everything should be solid there. So that is where we're headed with that part of it. Phase one's about about $4 million to put the structure in and all the equipment, to put stuff on other towers and so forth. Of course, phase two is the unknown. How many BDAs do we have to put in, or directional antennas? If we can get away with that without a lot of heavy lift, the radios is about 1.6 to outfit all the radios. And then 4 is whatever's left over is unknown at this point as well. Right now, as if it works out well and we don't have to put anything else in or a whole lot of BDAs, we should be setting with about $288,000 out of this grant. Caveat that with a thing called a shelter where the generator has to go. The state has one. They said we can have it. I'm guessing it's going to be $15,000 to move it. You'd think, well, why would you just not build one? Because apparently they're about $500,000. So $20,000 to move one might be worth the $500,000. So if we can get that shelter and we can move that shelter, we should be looking upwards to about 700,000 left over. So that's a good number to be setting at if everything goes smooth. So that's kind of the game plan at this point. The current matter at hand is the notice to proceed. Motorola is trying to lock us in for this last quarter before the CPI or the consumer price indexing goes up. They're talking roughly could be upwards to 18%, which is a pretty hefty increase. Nobody knows until it really happens. So they wanted this document signed. It doesn't lock us into purchasing anything, but it just locks us into it. There's been a back and forth with legal departments between Motorola, our corporate counsel, the admin office, myself. As you recall, you've already signed a document stating that you have a grant with the state MPSCS DTMB for the $4.8 million. So we wrote in there that the state will be paying Motorola directly. He said, no problem. Had the state sign off on that. State's like, we can't sign off on that because it talks about the Michigan My Deal, and round we go, right? So basically, what we've done in this document that you have, it says that we will pay the bill. So basically the invoices are going to come to my desk. I will make sure that Procom, our local vendor, has the widgets and gadgets that have arrived. I'll initial it. I forward it off to the state themselves. In fact, I have a meeting next week set up with them to discuss this process a little more. And then they will cut the check to Motorola. Motorola is okay with that. Everybody seems to be good with that. So that's kind of what we're at today, is asking that board chair be allowed to sign the notice to proceed so we can lock in this pricing and move this forward. Questions?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to comment. I think we've been looking at communication issues for about the last 8 years. And I mean, we've had emails sent to us, and we've had people come before us at our meetings. And then as we go around to our own governmental entities, we hear about some of the problems. And what I was surprised is that didn't hear about all of them. So this looks like we're on a way finally to solving the communication issues that we have in this county. And I think that's a feather in the sheriff's cap, and anybody else who helped lobby to get those dollars. So good job.
Appreciate that. One thing I did want to mention just real quick, I'm going to bring up another one here. So when I kind of quoted some of those numbers, there is a Michigan My Deal that I mentioned, and then there is a discount from Motorola. So that numbers bring it back down into line. So if the numbers seem high when I was mentioning, that's because I didn't put those discounts in, but there's state contract was about $1 million, and then Motorola's discount was about 200,000. So that's kind of how the numbers work out.
Want to comment, Sheriff Lane? I know you put a ton of work into this project, and I'm sure it's greatly appreciated. Appreciated for it, I'm sure, by other law enforcement partners. And if you're going to get that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
A generator shelter with $7 million.
It must be one heck of a shelter.
Okay, Sheriff, this didn't come up in committee, which is always a bad way to start things, but I had a question last night. Having to do with west part of the county. When I became a commissioner, he had trouble with the radios and they all went to 800. Now is phase 3, will that be buying 800 radios for the rest of the counties? And will there be some sort of a reimbursement for the guys that already paid that? I had a question I couldn't answer. I hate to leave Commissioner-elect Emery with a problem, because that was my last meeting with Sherman Township.
But I think the rule is if it's not asked in committee, it can't be asked here. So that's my answer.
No, well, yeah,
It won't reimburse. It won't go backwards. Even the east side has purchased their radios, the fire departments and so forth. Our goal is to take our existing 800 radios that law enforcement have, which in the tune about 240 or 50, and disseminate them down to fire, EMS, Parks Rec, whoever would need them. So we're trying to offset some of that. There's no reimbursement process there. The state's agreement with us that we already have is pretty particular about the types of radios and the money that could be used for. It has to be the new state of the art, stuff that's on their market. So there, no reimbursements, nothing like that, but we do plan on pushing those 240 or 50 mobiles and portables back down to our public safety partners.
How will that boost the signal strength a little bit on the west side or not? Not
It won't,
necessarily.
and I'm not sure that we have any real issues on the west side. You know, the west side has been operating off the MPSCS 800 system for 4 or 5, almost 6 years now. I can tell you, we very seldom ever run into any issues. You might run into, you know, you may have Randell's out there or something, a big shop or something, you might have an issue, but you know, the fire departments are well versed in using simplex channels, which are non-repeated channels. And that's these radios all have those 800 or 8 tack channels onto them and 7 tack channels. So you can go to those, they penetrate buildings well, then a command and control stands outside and communicates. So fire does that very well already. I'll be honest with you, I operate a fire 800 in the west side of the county, have for several years now, and we just don't see any issues with it. Not, you know, Nottawa Sherman on their map originally had a bunch of white area on their map showing that wouldn't work in that area. And then if you know, the chief said, well, it does work there. I key it up. I live there. Like, you know, it does work. So even though areas that it showed it didn't work, it actually did work pretty good. So I'm not aware of anything. And I said at the fire chiefs meetings as well, I've not heard anything about anybody having issues with communications. There's always going to, no matter what we do, there's always going to be a little bit of in building here or there, just depending on where you're at. Quite frankly, most times if I take a step 3 or 4 feet one way or the other way, it fixes it. Steel roofs, steel buildings affect it. Those are issues, but I have a steel roof on my residence at home and I have no problem. So it's just kind of where you're at sometimes.
Okay, thanks. I didn't have an answer for it. I was just kind of curious. So is there any more questions for the sheriff? Seeing none, we'll move this forward to the business session. And Mr. Chairman, that completes the work of the Criminal Justice and County Affairs Committee.
Thank you.
Other issues, no unfinished business under new business, Vice Chairman Horton, would you mind presenting those?
Certainly, first up. Consider accepting and placing on file the 2022 Isabella County Administrator Controller Performance Appraisal. About 6 weeks ago or so, this board met and we decided we were going to have a board appraisal of the County Administrator Controller Nicole Frost, and she did such a wonderful job. She decided not to show up tonight. I'm just kidding. She received.
Say whatever.
Exactly. She can't shoot dirty looks or anything like that. No, she's done a wonderful job. I think the remarks that the commissioners gave her were very, very well deserved. I think she's done an excellent job. This was gathered by council. Each commissioner had a chance to comment, to mark Nicole as they saw fit. Nicole also graded herself. Personally, I thought Nicole graded herself fairly low. And she's done a wonderful job in her first year. It's not been an easy thing. There's a lot with this county going on. She had to come in with a new board chairman. And we've got and she managed to do the jail, our $48 million project. I think she took control of that and has really done a wonderful job. And I think it's going to, with her at the helm of that, leading and that, I think the county is going to be in good hands. So commissioners, I don't see if anybody wants to comment on it. Feel free.
I'll just comment that as chair, I work pretty closely with Ms. Frost and I've been very happy with her performance. It's been an interesting year. A lot of issues come up, but she's handled them very well. I thought always honest and forthcoming, and I think she's worked very hard to build some bridges, which are necessary and needed.
Okay, anybody else? Hearing and seeing no further comment, that will move forward to this evening. Next up, consider scheduling the 2023 Isabella County Board of Commissioners organizational meeting for Tuesday, January 3rd, 2023 at 7 p.m. to be held at the Isabella County Commission on Aging building located at 2200 South Lincoln Road, Mount Pleasant, Michigan, 48858. This is something I don't have to vote or even be involved in.
No, you don't.
So other than to bring it up, this is fairly standard. The commissioners meet. I believe Clerk Lux actually has the gavel for all of about 5 minutes. She likes to try to stretch that as long as she can, but we do get her handing that over pretty quickly. So pretty self-explanatory. The board votes their chairman in. And then from there, the board, I believe, votes the vice chair. And then committees, I don't know if they do the committees that evening or not. I think the board, I can't remember. It's been the chairman appoints the committees and away we go as far as the board goes. So new board member will be coming in. I believe possibly Commissioner Hutchinson might be relieved of a duty during the agenda time, but we will see. That will be up to the next commission, our chairperson. So, but other than that, it's pretty straightforward.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Horton. Next up would be general public comments. Anyone for general public comment? And anyone for announcements? Commissioners, any announcements?
Chairman Hope. Yes. If I may. This will be my last work session in my tenure as County Commissioner District 4. We'll have a new County Commissioner District 4, Commissioner Engler, coming up. And Commissioner Embry, welcome. You're going to be starting in January. I'd like to start off by thanking my family for the last 10 years for allowing me to do this position. My wife, Sandy, my daughter, Jessica, and her husband, Zach, my son, Alex, and his wife, Hannah, and my daughter, Grace, and her fiance, Larry. It's been a family involvement that's taken me away from the family at times. So I thank them for allowing me to do this. I'd like to thank all the elected officials, everyone. They've been very fair to me, very nice. Sometimes we've had some interesting discussions, but on the whole, I think everyone's acted pretty professionally. I'd like to thank the residents of District 4 for electing me 5 times county commissioner. And then also the Isabella County community for allowing me to serve and have faith in my abilities. I've enjoyed serving with the commissioners over the years, from the late Roger Trudell, Francis Lickman, John Hout, Mike Fisher, who I believe is going to be a rising star in this community. I'm just watching this young man grow as he takes on different responsibilities. And of course, two mentors on the board. First, Dave Ling. I had the pleasure of serving on the Finance Administration Committee with Commissioner Ling. And I won't say what he gave me, probably one of the best compliments I've ever had in my life, and I won't say it. But I think the world of Dave Ling, a very honest gentleman, and very, very, what a wonderful person he is for the community. And then, of course, George Green. I had the pleasure of serving as George Green's vice chairman for a few years. George taught me to hold your ground and always be honest. And if you do that, people will respect you. So I think that, to me, I take away from what George Green has taught me. He's, again, a very honest person, and obviously a very intelligent person. So my fellow commissioners here, I'm not going to go and pick on any of you at all. I've enjoyed serving with each and every one of you. We've had disagreements over the years, but they've been, I think, for the most part, professional disagreements. And I think that makes a good board. I think to the credit of the other 6 commissioners and myself, we've checked the R's and the D's at the door. And I think that's how you're going to move this county forward, is we run it as a community, not as what you watch on CNN and Fox News. I don't think that enters into any of our decisions here. So that being said, again, I'm looking forward. Commissioner Swaney knows I enjoy a good hockey game or two. So I'm going to say I'm moving into the 3rd period of my life with the hope that I have overtime and a shootout, of course. But the nice thing is I'm going to be in control of that 3rd period. So I'm not nervous. I'm building a new business. I have a new grandchild. Hopefully more. Got a wed daughter, third daughter, my second daughter, last child getting married in September of next year. All three kids live out of state, and I am anxiously awaiting this next couple days when I can get all my family together and enjoy them. And that's what's most important in my life is my family. So thank you all commissioners. Thank you Isabella County community. And I will see everyone in Rick's and Myers and through other things. Highly doubt you'll see me at a county commission meeting anytime soon though. So thank you all.
Any other announcements? Clerk Lux.
Announcement. I want to thank you all for the last meeting when you approved, the employees to, triumph as far as have to do. Unfortunately, that next day, she let me know that she could not accept the position. So that being said, a couple days following that, we had a city employee, who was very interested in the, has been educated on the CDF and other things in the office. So it worked out. I spoke with Nicole. She said due to the experience and everything that the new one had, that we should be able to just slip them again into the same pay period or pay scale that the other one was. But I just wanted to let you guys know if anyone objected to that. So that's what our plans were. And I'm just thankful that we're able to find someone quickly to get into that.
Thrilled. I just want to follow up on Vice Chairman Horton on your comments. It's been a real pleasure serving with
Thank you.
And when I started running in 2016, Commissioner Marino and David Ling and Mike Fisher were very supportive. But so were you and George Green. And you guys didn't care that I was a Democrat and that you're Republicans. And one of the things that you say often that I really like is that we check our R's and D's at the doors, we come in and go to work, and that has certainly been your method of operation. I saw how hard you worked to get a point of sale regulation through the Central Michigan District Health Department, going to 5 separate boards, county boards, to get them approved so that we could do it here. And I won't talk too much about that because I don't want to talk about septic systems, but
Few people do.
that I thought that is public service. You and Margaret McAvoy worked really hard to get that through. And that will improve the water quality in the Chip River. It was very important. So I appreciate it. I've learned a lot from you.
Thank you.
And it's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
Any other announcements? And hearing none, then I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Moved and supported. Can we have a roll call?
Commissioner Hutchinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Engler,
Yes.
Commissioner Jablonski,
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner
Yes.
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The regular session is
Jerry
there,
back?
Jerry on the screen.
oh,
Mine says returning to main session.
okay, we'll wait for you.
It's taking the long way.
The scenic route, you know.
I'm kicked out.
Uh,
Kicked out of the club. Glad I'm getting a new computer.
I think said something user in that state.
Just comfort up to Commissioner Moreno, get the screenshot of Commissioner Moreno. so we
All
can-
right,
Oh, there he is. All right.
He's back?
Well, his name's up there.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Oh, there we go.
You adjourn part-time.
Departing, but.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned at 4:20 PM.
Hang out here.